All right, so back to my so the developers that are already working in Nigeria, a lot of them are seeking for greener pastures. So meaning they leave Nigeria. Either they leave Nigeria or they get jobs abroad while still in Nigeria. Now the thing is this, tech companies that are abroad, I've worked with a lot of them, I've seen a lot of them, they believe that it is easier to hire a developer here in Nigeria and pay cheaper. What do I mean? If you go abroad, there are bigger companies. There is Facebook, there is Google, there is Twitter, there are other big companies. But while there are bigger companies, there are also smaller companies, small startups that are coming up the same abroad, the same Canada, the same US, the same UK. So developers that are working there already know how much to charge a company. So these startups cannot afford to pay developers there the amount that these developers would require. So what do? These startups will come to Nigeria or maybe Africa, Kenya, I think just anywhere, Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and co, to get developers because they cannot afford the developers that are there abroad. So by the time they hire the ones there, the ones that are here are now working and making big money. They don't even have time to work for companies that are in Nigeria or companies that are in Africa because they are engaged working for companies that are abroad. So what this means is that the companies in Nigeria now need more hands because even the hands that are in Nigeria are no longer working for them. If you go to Flutterwave, check out companies, a lot of them, they are looking out for foreigners, Indians especially, because not as if Nigerians don't know these things. Nigerians know these things, but a lot of Nigerians are working abroad. And secondly, more Nigerians that are learning the tech, people who go and learn the tech for 1,000 naira, 2,000 naira, they don't actually, I'm not saying they do it for 1,000, no. I'm just saying for learning, they don't actually learn the real thing that will make them land the job. Now, when it comes to backend developer, nobody is going to hire you as a beginner for a backend job. Imagine, let's say you sign up and you want to apply for a job at Flutterwave or maybe OP or something, and you want to handle their backend. As a beginner, they will not hire you, but they will hire a front-end beginner because as a front-end beginner, you're just building UIs. You're just building UIs. They look at the UI, they see it's fine, they tell it's fine. If it's not fine, they tell you to go back and they work on it. That's fine. But as a backend developer, they want to know that you can handle the responsibility because they are not seeing what you are doing. They only get to know if something fails. For example, there's an application I was handling before your class now. The CEO just called me and said transfers are failing. So transfers are failing. I had to do a little things on the back end to check and then ask him to try again. Now, that kind of person is not going to hire a beginner for his backend, to handle his backend, because a lot depends on the backend. And so because I know this, I'm not going to teach you as a beginner. I'm going to raise the bar a little to intermediate. Why am I saying this? Your classes may be a little tough, but bear with me because I'm teaching you what you need to land a job. Because if I teach you as a beginner, nobody's going to hire you as a beginner. So most of my students who you see that actually landing jobs, they're because I raised the bar a little. You're supposed to learn at intermediate level, meaning the first assignment is simple. The second one will go top. I know there's an assignment I posted and some persons were saying, is that for us? Is that for us? So the assignment was actually for you. So what I mean is that there are jobs. The developers who are here are not actually mediating with the beginners who are learning. So you have beginners who are learning the jobs, but they can't land jobs because they were not able to interface with senior developers. They didn't pass through senior developers who will prepare them for jobs. And as such, they know the basics, but they can't handle a full role on their own. And after learning the whole thing, they can't land a job. Whereas the senior developers who can land the jobs are actually looking for jobs abroad. So that means there is a deficit of back-end developers. Then the back-end developers that are learning are not even enough. So there's now a deficit of backend developers. Now, I don't know if my story makes sense. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, with these few points of mine, please drop a thumbs up if we can begin today's class. Thank you. My fear is that learning backend using JavaScript or a new programming language scares me. I'm so used to Python, most especially Django. When I heard you operate on JavaScript, I was so scared. JavaScript is easy. JavaScript is easy. Python is very easy. So just watch the language. One is easy. One is very easy. So they are the same thing. But if you know Python, there is guaranteed that you're going to know JavaScript. It's guaranteed. I can guarantee. All you need to do is show up for my classes, do my assignment, do my project. It's very easy. And I'm going to make it that easy for you. Please, why can't you join the class? If you leave, somebody should address. Yeah, we're going to have a course rep. We should have a course rep for this class after I mark your attendance. From the attendance I mark, I will know who I'm going to use as course reps. But I think so. Okay, it makes sense. I don't know what makes sense, but you can see my screen. So let's begin today's class. So I'm going to open this folder because this is the folder we were working with the last time. Please, somebody should make sure you remind. Okay, don't worry, I can do that myself. So I'm going to open my project folder. It is also called directory, and I want to believe you know how to open up a folder with I can't join. People can't join the class. Please, somebody should check that out. Why? Close Instagram and sorry, not Instagram. Close Telegram. You can't see my screen, or you can see my screen. Akani and Abdurazid, which one? Who can see and who cannot see? Who can see and who cannot see? We can't. All right, I'm going to try sharing the screen again. I will stop sharing now, and then please let me know. Unable to mark attendance. If you can't mark attendance like this, I think this is network issues. Oniola, so why is it doing that? I think you're having network issues. Try it again. Log out. Close the browser. If possible, clear your caches and then try again. But if it doesn't work, reach out to me after the class. I will share my screen again now. Please let me know when you can see my screen. If you can see my screen, please let me know. Yeah, I stopped sharing as the point. Let me know if you can see my screen. Okay, you can see my screen. I want to believe that's what the thumbs up is. Please, let's use the question tab. I am about moving like this. I may not see your question if you drop it on the general tab. Please use the question tab. Here. Here. All right. So like I said, your backend class is going to be a little advanced. Not advanced, but we're raising the bar a little. And the only reason why we're doing that is because nobody is going to hire a beginner to handle their backend. So by the end of the class, you should be able to build a full backend project alone. So if you can build it alone, it means you can go to any company and you will handle their backend. Maybe not everything, because even as a developer myself, I learn every day. So there are some things I don't even know how to do yet, but I'll still figure them out because that is what you are, a developer. You should figure them out. So we did our HTML and CSS the last time. build alone? What is OG? What is build alone? What do you mean by build alone? Yes, you should be able to build your backend alone. Please use the questions. Use the question so that I can see your question. And I want to confirm that I'm recording. Yes, I'm recording the class. So we treated HTML, CSS, no, just HTML. So in HTML, we talked about the heading tags. Now that was after we had treated what HTML is, the different parts in HTML, and then we started talking about the tags in HTML, H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. Can somebody please attend to Miracle? Omaye, the assignment is actually supposed to be a practical class for you. And that means I'll do my own. You will watch me do it. If you are using a laptop, you can follow along. But you watch me do my own. And then I'll give you an assignment. Then you will do your own. Now, the deal between me and you is if I do one, you will do three. If I do one, you will do three. And I'm sure that is why you saw a list. I hope you followed all the assignments one by one, because that's what the assignment is about. So that's supposed to be the practical part. I'll build my own, you build your own. I'm not going to be teaching you just words. Sometimes I will use words to maybe encourage you, tell you one or two stories, but it's actually practical class. So sorry for those who are not able to submit the assignment. I want to believe after this weekend, you should all be able to submit the assignment. Sorry about that. So we have H1, H2, H3. What I will do next, I want to arrange these files. I will want to arrange these files. Network issues. Yes, I must point that out. The last cohort, they had a lot of network issues. But even at that, we had success stories, a lot of persons, success stories. I know of a lady, she was an absolute beginner. I mean, absolute beginner. She doesn't know backend. But even with the network issues, she picked up backend. And at the point, she was even going to join on the project I was working on. So, sorry about network issues. You're going to see it from my end and also from your end. But if it happens, stay calm. Not to worry about it. Stay calm. All right. So I'm going to arrange my project folder. What I want to do is create a folder for images and put them one side. Then create a folder for pages and keep them one side. Now that is how you organize the project. So I'm going to create a folder here and I'll call it images. Then this first image, I will move it into the folder and it says move, then move. The second image, I will also move it into the folder. It says move and I'll move it. So if I close this up, I have just the image and just the index file. Why am I doing this? Now, in our last class, I told you that the reason why I called this file the index file is because index means the first file. When you deploy this project to the server is looking for only one file, and that file is the index.html. So you cannot have two index.html. You can only have one. And you can also group them. The next will be the pages. So while is the index going to be outside? The index is going to be outside because that is the file that the server is looking for, the first file. But every other file you create, maybe the about page, the contact page, and any other page, they are all going to be inside this folder called pages. Moving the folder. Now, all I did was to drag and drop. The images were here, and I created the folder and I dragged it and then hover over the image and drop. That is it. So you click outside. Once you click outside, you click here to create a folder. Once you create a new folder, which I did, you call it images. You drag the image over the folder and you drop it. You drag the second one over the folder and you drop it. Now I'm going to demo that by creating a new page. So I will click here to create a new page, and I'm going to call this page about us. Maybe not with capital letter, with small letter. About us, or maybe about.html. So this is about, and about is not supposed to be outside. So I'm going to drag it and hover over the pages folder and put it on top of the pages. So if you close these pages, you see, if you click here, you open the images, you click it, it closes. You click here, you open the pages folder, you click on it, and it closes. So this is how you arrange the project structure. Now there's one more folder you need, which is going to be for the styles. So you have the images, you have the pages, you have the styles, and you have your index.html file. This is still front end, but it is going to be a smooth transition from the front end to the back end. Like I said, nobody is going to hire a beginner. So in order to get you job ready, I need to teach you what is expected of you from the front end. Now, I'm not teaching you front end. I'm teaching you what is expected of you on the front end, so that when somebody is interviewing you and they're asking you, what would you do in this scenario? What would you do here? You know what to do, because we went through what is expected of you. Like that. Please don't drop your comment any other place. I may not see it. Just use this question tab. So I have this. I can open the pages folder and click on the about. Now on this about, I want to bootstrap the about page. Okay. There is no issues about how to arrange these pages. All you need to know is that there is only one file that should be outside, and that file is the index.html, because that is the only file that the browser is interested in. Every other thing needs to be inside a folder. The images should be inside images folder. The pages should be inside a page folder. Now, by pages, I mean other HTML files. That's what we refer to as pages. So there are going to be so many HTML files, but only the index.html that will be outside. But other HTML files, you put them inside the pages folder. That is for the pages. Now, when we start working on CSS, we're going to create a styles folder where you add all your CSS. So that is how you structure the project. For the sake of all of us that are learning, I understand some persons have been asking questions. They ask ahead. They ask questions ahead because they know it. What you might be doing is you might actually end up skipping some things because of if I keep answering. But not well. Let me answer your question. If you want to deploy images, there are two ways. There's one way I will do it. The best way, which I love doing, is that I will ask the front end developer to upload that image to a cloud first, and then send the backend the URL of the image to store on the database. Now, you don't store the image on the database. You store the URL of that image on the database. Now, you know, when we are adding URLs to images, we're just copying the image URL. So images work with URL. You will ask the front-end developer to upload the image to a cloud and then send you the URL. What happens is that when the image is uploaded to a cloud, the cloud is going to return a URL to the front end. And the front end is going to use that URL, or maybe take that URL and send it to you, the backend developer, and you will save the URL to that image. So whenever the front end needs that image, you'll be returning the URL, not the image again, but the image is saved on the cloud, maybe in AWS S3 bucket, or maybe on Cloudinary, or maybe on Google Drive, on any cloud services that you want to use. But you don't save the image on your database. You save the image URL on the database. Yes, that's what I was asking. Let's leave questions. Just follow what I'm teaching you. Forget about what I have not taught you for now. Focus on what I am teaching you. Forget about what I haven't taught you. So I will bootstrap my HTML file, and I want to believe you know how to do this already with the exclamation mark. And the HTML is divided into two. We have this and we have this. Now, we are going to learn a few things on HTML and then move straight into JavaScript, which is where we begin the backend. So we've done basic HTML. And I want to believe those persons who did my assignment, they did the assignment on their own. So if you did the assignment on your own, it means that you know how to add a tag. For example, H1 or H3, you know how to add a tag like this. So, and if you know how to add a tag like this, you should also know how to open it up on the browser. So what I would do is open the pages folder, because this is where my about me is. And then I'll open this up with my browser here. So this is going to be my browser. I will keep this here while I close this file. Sorry, Mecca, about the network issues. There's also going to drag and drop it on the image. Okay, yeah. Okay, mine isn't working, it's working, lagging behind. Just drag your image, drop it on the folder. That's fine. Now, even if you can't do it, it's also fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. So you can do this. You can bootstrap your HTML. You can also add a tag. Now, there are so many tags in HTML. We are not here to learn all the tags in HTML, but we're going to learn some tags which we have started learning. We've learned the heading tags, we've learned the paragraph tags, we've learned the image tag. Now, the image tag works the same way. This is image tag. You have the SRC. The SRC is the source of the image, while the auth is the alternative text. The same thing applies for the audio tag. For audio tag, you also add in the source of the audio file. You can upload the audio anywhere and copy the URL, or you can copy the URL from anywhere. The same thing applies to the video tag. The SRC, you copy the source of the video. It can be on YouTube, it can be on any platform. You copy that video and you add them here. Now, this is how we add tags, and everything must be within the body tag. Nothing should go outside of the body tag. They must be within the body tag. So if we understand this, the next thing we need to learn is, there's a reason why we learn HTML first, then move to CSS. Now, while we are learning HTML and CSS, we're going to cover up on other tags that you don't know about. So, but we're going to be doing both of them together, HTML and CSS. So the first class was the HTML class. Today's class is your CSS class, and you're going to be merging the two of them together. So we don't learn CSS separately. In order to learn CSS, we need to write HTML tags. So we're going to be writing more tags and be writing CSS. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to CSS. Now, if you have any question, please use this tag. Welcome to CSS. Now, what is CSS? CSS simply means cascading style sheet, and you use it to apply styles. When I mean style, I mean colors, sizes, background, images, whatever you want to add to make the website or the application look beautiful. And this is what I'm going to say. We're not learning our backend or our stuff for only the website. No, we're not. It can also be, this principle can also be applied to mobile, because I'm also a mobile developer. So they are all the same thing. We're just learning what is expected of us on the front end. A mobile developer is also a front-end developer. A front-end developer that builds a website is also a front-end developer. So as a backend, we're learning for both the web and also the mobile too. So how do you create a CSS file, or how do you write CSS? There are 3 ways of writing CSS. The first one is what we call the inline CSS. That's the first way of writing CSS. The second one is what we call the internal CSS. That's the second way. And then the third way is what we call the external CSS. So these 3 ways, you don't need to learn all of them. You pick one. My recommendation will be the external CSS, but I'm going to just teach just basics of the 3 of them, and we'll move on with one. What is inline CSS? Inline CSS is a CSS that you write in the same line. Inline means in the same line. It is the same line as a tag. For example, this H3 tag is on line 15. This is line 15. So if you are writing your CSS in the same line as this tag, that CSS is called inline CSS. So inline CSS means in the same line. Now, how do you write that? Inside the opening angle bracket. Inside this opening angle bracket, inside here, you click on it and you write style. So this is style, and these are the different styles you can apply to this H3. There is display, there is height. You can increase or decrease the height. There is the width. The width is the width. You can increase it or decrease it. You can add a border to it. You can add a color. You can add margin and padding. And I'm going to explain the difference between margin and padding. You can position it. You can move it from the top. You can add a background color to it. You can change the font family. For those who did typing, you know what fonts are. So you can increase the size, the font size, and so on and so forth. The first one we want to try out is the color. And I want to pick a color from here, which is going to be brown. So this is what we mean by inline CSS. So what does it mean? Inside the first opening tag. So tags come in pairs, the opening and the closing tag. So you write your inline CSS in the opening tag inside the angle bracket. You start with style. Then inside the style, you specify a property. So the property we are specifying here is the color. If I save this and then come to the browser and refresh, you should notice that the color changed. But even though you can't see that physical change, what I would do is I will add another style. And what I want to add is the font size. I want to increase the size to maybe 30 pixels. So I'm increasing the font size to 30 pixels. If I save this and refresh the browser, it becomes bigger. Now 30 is too small. I can increase it to 50 if I like. I'll save that and come here and refresh. It will become bigger. So this is what we refer to as inline CSS. But inline CSS, I do front end too. So I use inline CSS for just basics to test out something or override something. So I don't use it for the actual project. I use it for just basics, test out something, check out something very quick, debug something and all of that. Because if I keep writing all the styles here, it will be very long that I will not even see the content of this tag again. I won't see it. So in that case, I don't write inline CSS a lot. I don't. And you may not be writing inline CSS. You don't need to if you don't want to. So, but I will save this and comment it out. That is inline CSS. CSS that you write in the same line. There is another CSS, which is number 2, called the internal CSS. internal CSS. What is internal CSS? Internal CSS is referred to as internal because it is the CSS you write at the head of the browser or of your HTML file. At the head. Where is the head? This is the head. So any CSS that you write at the head here is referred to as the internal CSS. So how do you write that? I'll come here. Because it has to be inside the head, I will make room in the head. I'll make room in the head. Sorry. Can you still see my screen? If you can see my screen, please drop a thumbs up. If you can still see my screen, don't worry. I will always know when network has cut me up, and I will stop, and then we'll continue. All right, so let's continue. Any CSS you write at the head of the browser is referred to as internal CSS. And how do you write internal CSS? I will click H3. Before H3, I will need to specify that I'm writing a style. So I will use the style tag. Now this is a style tag. It wasn't used for the inline CSS. The style property was called, but for this one, you need a tag, the opening style tag and the closing style tag, because you are writing CSS. So you need a style tag. And inside it, this style I'm writing is for H3. So because the style is for H3, I will need to call H3. Because the style I'm writing is for H3, I will need to call H3 and then put curly braces. So this is curly braces. What do I want to add? I want to add color. Now, there are so many styles here. If I do this, what do I do it like this? No, I wanted to bring out all those. Yeah, so these are the properties I can pick from. The moment I call H3 and then put curly braces, this is curly braces. It is different. It is different from bracket. It is also different from square bracket. So these three things are not the same. This first one is square bracket. This one is bracket. What you need is the curly braces. Curly braces, thank you. Curly braces, not the square brackets, no. And definitely not brackets, no. What you need is the curly braces. So you are writing CSS for this H3, you call H3 and then curly braces. Now whatever you write inside here will apply to H3. So what I will do is here, I can pick any style, but I will pick color and say the color I want to add is blue. I want to add blue and save it. So if I come to my browser and refresh the browser, I have this as blue. Now, mind you, I commented out the first one, but I can still leave it if I want. And then refresh, we have the first one here. Now, notice something. Notice something. This is H3. This is also H3. We're applying styles here to H3, but why are they having two different colors? I'm coming for that. We're going to answer that question later, but just take note of that. And if I refresh this, I have that. I can also increase the font size, as in font and size, and say 50 px, 50 pixels. So if I come here and refresh, it's now bigger. It's 50 pixels. So this is how you write internal CSS. Internal CSS. Any CSS that you write at the head of the HTML with the style tag is referred to as internal CSS. Now, I don't write internal CSS. Why? Because when I come to my HTML file, I want to see the HTML tags immediately. But if I need to write these tags here, then you know that a lot will go wrong. There will be so many files here. To build a website, I will have so many lines of codes, maybe up to 5,000 for one page. So imagine I want to style 5,000 tags at the head of my HTML. It means by the time I come to this file, I will need to scroll and scroll and scroll before I get to the HTML tags. I don't want that. So that is why I don't write internal CSS. But you can, if it's just small, like this one I'm doing now. I'm teaching it, so I can write just small line just to demo it. Maybe you want to do just small thing, you can write internal CSS. Professionally, the best way to write CSS is the external CSS. Professionally, the best way to write CSS is the external CSS. And why is it called external CSS? And what is external CSS? So I'll keep this one here. External CSS is a CSS that you write in another file and import it to your main file. It is called external because you write it in another file and then you import it to your file. Everybody is too quiet. Please, can you drop thumbs up so that I know that somebody is following? Drop thumbs up so I know somebody is following. It's too quiet. I know I'm the only one who's talking, but it just seems too quiet. Yes, thank you. Thank you. So what we are going to do is to create another file to write our external CSS. So how do I do that? I will click here, create a new file. I'll call this, now this is outside, it's not inside here yet, but I'm also going to drag it into there. So I'll call this about.css. The reason why I call it about.css is because I am working on about page. So I am creating a CSS for about page. Inline CSS is the CSS you write in the same line. Yeah, in the same line. For example, if you come to this tag here, notice that this is H3 tag and we are writing style. Inside the quote for the styles, we are specifying color. The color should be brown, and we are specifying a font size, and the font size should be 50 pixels. They are all on the same line. And that is why it is called inline CSS. CSS you write in the same line as the tag. All right. So let's proceed to external CSS. For external CSS, you need to create a file, call it anything, but it must end with .css, small letter CSS. The reason is because the browser will know that these codes inside here are CSS codes. So you must end it with .css. So I will drag this CSS file and I will drop it on the styles folder. Again, the reason is because the only thing that should be outside is the index.html. So the CSS is going to be inside the CSS file, while the about page should be inside the about folder. So I'll minimize this and come over here. So I have H3 here, and this CSS is applying to H3, so I can comment this out. Commenting out means the browser is not going to recognize this code again. If I refresh, because it's not recognizing the styles, it go back to default. That's what commenting out means. I turn it to a comment, the browser ignores it. So I have H3 here, and I want to apply CSS to this H3 externally. So I'll come to my CSS here, and I'll write H3 and specify color. Let the color be blue violet, and let the font size be 100 pixels. So if I save this, I'm called H3, then curly braces, and I open the curly braces up. Then inside it, I am writing the CSS properties. The first property is the color. The second property is the font size. And if I come back here, the tag here is H3. But if I refresh, nothing is reflecting. Nothing is reflecting. Why? This emphasizes the fact that the browser is not interested in any other file. It is only interested in the index file. So if you want the browser to know any other file, you have to import that file into the index file. So I don't know if that makes sense. So I'm going to import this CSS file into my HTML file, because if you don't do that, the browser will not recognize the CSS. So how do you do that? Anywhere before the title or after the title, you can link your CSS file. Before the title or after the title. So I will link it after the title with a tag called link. You link it with a tag called link. We link our CSS with a tag called link. If I click on link, it's going to bring out this, telling me that this is a style sheet that I'm trying to link. The href here, href means it is pointing to the location of the file. So I will use dot slash. I like using dot slash. Now, it's not as if you cannot write about and so on and so forth, but I like using dot slash. You can write it like this, styles. I think is this styles I called it. Styles, yes. Styles. Inside the styles, that is about the CSS. Now, a lot of persons do this on YouTube, and it works. Okay, it's not working here. Sorry. But I don't, what I need to do is I need to specify that it is actually here. So if I do dot slash, dot means the current folder. Dot means the current folder. Slash means bring out everything in the current folder. Everything in the current folder. But in the current folder, where I have this about page is the pages folder. So that is where I have this. The styles is in another folder. So if I want to locate it, I will do the current folder, then come out of the current folder, then bring out everything outside the current folder. So double dot. The first dot means the current folder. The second dot means come outside of the current folder. And then the slash means every other thing outside the current folder. So if I do this, I can click on styles and then select about me. So if I save it and now refresh, I have my CSS applying. What is going on here? What is actually going on is that the browser starts reading your HTML code from the top to the bottom. So it means that the browser will see this line first. That is why this is on line 1. It will see this line second. That is why this is on line 2. And it will see this 3. So the browser comes and starts reading from the top. And when it gets to this link, it will stop and move over to this file, which is the CSS. Let me confirm. Yeah, I want to believe the recording is still on because I didn't pause it, but Let's just confirm. Yes, it's still on. All right, thank you for asking. So let's proceed. So the link here, what it does is, as the browser starts reading from top to bottom, it will stop here, move over to the CSS file, come inside the CSS file, read everything that is in this CSS file. It will read everything and then come back and continue from line 9 and start reading your codes. What it will then do is, whatever it saw as an instruction in the CSS file, it will come back and start applying those instructions to your tags. Remember, the head contains instructions for the browser. So if I link my CSS if I link my CSS at the head of the HTML, it means that CSS becomes part of the instructions. So it is read the instructions first and then come back and start applying the instructions to all the other tags. So ladies and gentlemen, any questions? And do you know how to link external CSS? Now, even if you don't know inline CSS, it's fine. You can forget about it. If you don't know internal, it's also fine. You can forget about it, but you must know external CSS. So do you know how to link external CSS, and can you link external CSS? All right, since we know that, it's fine and good. Now we can start writing CSS. So for those who don't know, for your sake, I'm going to remove everything. It's gone. And I'm going to delete the CSS file. It's gone. Now don't worry. It's gone. We are going a different direction. So first I will bootstrap the HTML file. Bootstrap over this. In the body, I will write my first tag. So I will write h1, and I will say welcome to CSS. And then here I will write a paragraph, and I will use lorem 10. Hit enter and save. So if I save this and refresh this browser, I have h1 and I have a paragraph tag. So if I want to apply CSS to this, I have the option of using the inline CSS or the internal CSS or the external CSS. But for the sake of this class, we're going to focus on how do you bootstrap. To bootstrap, let me cut this out first. Command X. To bootstrap, I use exclamation mark. So exclamation mark, you click on it, it's going to bootstrap the whole thing. This is it. And I call it bootstrap. I think a lot of people call it bootstrap, but there is something called bootstrap encoding. So bootstrap is different and bootstrapping is also different. So bootstrapping means starting it like that. So the initial about CSS didn't load on my web page. When I tried opening it, you need to go to the folder where you created it, enter the folder, then open this up with the browser. So you need to right click on it and make sure, yes, that's bootstrap CSS. Make sure that the file's name ends with .html, no spaces. It should open. It should open on the browser. So go direct to the folder and click on it, it will open. So I'll come back here, put this back. I know we know how to use tags by now. And then create a CSS file. I'll call it about.css. And then move the about.css into the CSS folder. I'll move that there and come here and save it. Now you need to link this file, because if you don't link it, h1, I'll call h1, I'll give it a color of blue, and then I'll give it a font size of say 60 pixels, and then save it. If you don't link it, your CSS will not apply. So you need to go over to where you want to apply the CSS, which is in about.html, either before the title or after the title. Now I'm going to link it above the title. So you call link. This is link. You use the tag, link tag. And when you click on it, make sure it is still showing you this style sheet. If it's showing you this, then here you can link the location. So I use dot slash. Dot slash means bring out everything in the current folder. But if you do dot the current folder, dot outside of the current folder. So dot means you are now outside of the current folder. Slash bring out everything outside of the current folder. Pick your styles, pick your CSS. So if you save this now and refresh, now you have welcome to this. So ladies and gentlemen, do you have any question? So in the absence of any question, we're just going to go another direction. Now, because I'm writing CSS, I will need to be refreshing the page every time. I'll be refreshing the page every time. I'll be refreshing the page every time. Why? To see the changes on the website. So I'll come here and refresh it. But what if there is a way that the page can refresh automatically? What if there is a way that once I save whatever I'm saving, I don't need to come and refresh? The website will refresh itself automatically. So for that, we need an extension. So on this, your VS Code, this first thing here is your files, the Explorer. This second one here is for search. Here is your source control. Here is the run and debug. Here is the extension. So this one here is for extension. Now, any extension you want to use on VS Code that doesn't come with VS Code, you can install it on VS Code. So if I click on the extension, you will see all the extensions I have installed. Okay, to create pages is very easy. To create pages, all you need to do is come back here. Make sure you are seeing all of this. Agnes, make sure you are seeing all of this. If you are seeing all of this, click outside. Make sure you click outside first before you create anything. Click outside, and then here is where you click to create a new folder. Here, you click here to create a new folder. You click here to create a new file. So file is different from folder. So here you click to create a new folder. If I click on it, it opens like this. If I click outside, it will disappear. If I click on it, it will open. Now it's opening so that I will enter a name. If you don't enter a name, it will assume that that was a mistake. So it will not record that folder. So you click on it and you enter a name. So when you enter a name, you have created a folder. So you can put anything inside this folder. For now, the folder is empty. So you need to click here. Now, this folder is selected. How do you know it's selected? Because there is a border around the folder. If I click here, now this is the folder selected. How do you know? Because there is a border around this. Now if I click here, this one is selected. There is a border around it. Now there's a border around it. Now before you create any file, you need to know which folder is selected. And that is why I say click outside. When you click outside, none of this is selected. But if you want to create something, let's say you want to create a page, without checking which folder is selected, and you move straight and click this, whatever you are creating it inside the folder that is selected. So Agnes is currently selected. If I click to create a folder now, the folder will be inside the Agnes folder. So you see it is inside there. If I still create another folder, it will still be inside the Agnes folder. So you see that those three there, I don't need them. But I'll delete that first. Don't worry. Let me demo that again. So before you create anything, be sure that nothing is selected unless you know what you're doing. For example, I want to create a file inside this folder. So I will select this folder and then click on create new file. If I click on this add.html, I've created a file inside the Agnes folder. If I close it up, I have it here. But if I go and select the styles folder and then click on file, I am creating a file inside the styles folder. I don't know if that makes sense, but it should make sense to you. So that is how you create a folder. Before you create anything, click outside so that you unselect anything. Now, unless you are sure of what you're doing, but if you're not sure, click outside before creating a folder. Then when you create what you want to create, you can drag it and drop it any folder that you want. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's continue. Where was I? All right, so we have this. I was asking if you know how to link the file. Now let's link. Now that we know how to link a file, I'm going to try and do something very simple with HTML. What am I going to do? I have a heading tag, H1. I have a paragraph tag, P tag, and I want to add an image. I have an image. I have an image. So what do I want to do? I want to write a code that will have this and have a paragraph and have an image and surround all of them with a border. You are talking about extension? Yes, thank you so much. I was talking about extensions. So I want this website to be refreshing on its own. I don't need to refresh it myself. So I will install an extension. You click here to get extensions. So here you will see all the extensions I have installed. And down here you will see recommended extensions. These are all my extensions. There are not many. And you will also be installing your own. So the extension we are looking for is called, what is it called? Live server. Live space server. You need internet for this. Of course, anybody on this call has internet. So you need live server, this first one. Now you see this certain button because I have already installed it. For you, you will see this keyword that says install. So go ahead and click on install to install the live server. Yes. So this is the live server you want to install. Click on it and make sure you install. You click on install. That's all you need to do, and automatically it will start refreshing. So go ahead and do that. I have mine installed already, so I will not be installing it again because I have it installed already. So I will close this, and what I will now do is this. I will click here because I don't want to be refreshing it. I will click here, right click, and go down. Here it says open with live server. What did I do? Sorry, is there another person experiencing this, that their screen is frozen? Is there another person? So what I'm doing is I am working on the about page. Okay. Sorry, I think it's your network or so. I think it's your network, but it's fine. try, maybe, what should I say, you should log out and come back in. If you can, try. Yeah, but I think on my end network is stable a little. All right, so what I want to do is I'm working on the about page. So it is this about page that I want the live server to be refreshing for me. So if it is this about page I want the live server to be refreshing, I will right click anywhere on the about page. It can be at the top, it can be in the middle, it can be beneath it, it can also be outside it. So anywhere on this about page, you right click and then open with live server. So if I click open with live server, it's going to open it with my default browser. Now, this is my default browser, not the browser I'm using. So this is my default browser. And if I go ahead to add anything else, let me just keep this default browser here. If I go ahead and add anything else like H1 like this and save it, automatically you see it appear there. If I duplicate it and then save, you see it appear there. If I duplicate again and save, it appears there. So the live server helps refresh the server, or will I call it the website. So I'll just copy this thing and put it on my browser of choice so that that live server will be refreshing it. So I'll click on that. Now if I duplicate this and save, okay, but it's not working there. So let me paste it again and hit enter. So now it should be able to pick up live changes. So I'll change this to H and save that. I have it working here. So ladies and gentlemen, that is how to use a live server. What I copied was I click on this URL. The URL. Now you don't need to do that. The reason why I'm doing it is because the browser that the live server chose to open is not the browser I am using for the class. So I am using this browser for the class, whereas the live server opened it on a different browser. So I copied the URL, everything here. I copied everything here, pasted it in this one and hit enter so that the live server will start working on this browser. That's what I copied. So if I remove this, let me just push this to the side. If I remove this and save, you see the live server is working automatically. It's gone. So since we have this, now I want to just build something. Just pay attention. It's not going to be much, just something simple. I want to build something simple. When I'm done, we can then ask our questions. So just something simple. Pay attention. If you also have a question or lost at any point, you can always ask me. Yeah, so I'll keep that here and then reduce this one a little while I reduce this a little. Sorry, the browser is way outside. I want to keep everything within the screen so that you can see it. Yeah. All right. So I have the body tag. I have H1. I have P tag. I have paragraph tag. That is the idea of grouping in HTML. So in HTML, you can group things. You can group things. What do I mean by grouping? For those of us that have computers and laptops, I used to do this thing before where if you come on my desktop, you only see one folder, only one folder. When you open the folder, you then see 3 folders, maybe one for movie, one for music, one for project. Now, when you click on the movie folder or the music folder, you then see multiple folders where you see one music may be foreign, one may be R&B, and so on and so forth. I'm not really a music fan, but that's fine. We do also grouping with in the code base. So you can either choose to use a div tag or a section tag or a main tag or a header tag or a footer tag. So these tags are used for grouping. What do I mean grouping? These three things are siblings. So the three of them are together. So what I can do is create a div tag and put the three of them inside the div tag. So if you look at it now, everything is inside the body, and these three siblings are in the same div. So you can choose to use a div for your grouping, or use a section for your grouping, or use a main tag for your grouping, or a header tag for your grouping, or a footer tag for your grouping. The question is, when should you use when? Now, it doesn't really matter when you use anyone, but for the sake of semantics and for working with other developers, because you're going to be working with other developers, you need to write codes that they will understand. They look at it and they understand. By default, you can use these two anywhere, whether at the head, in the middle, or at the bottom. So you can choose to use the div and the section anywhere, at the head, in the middle, or the bottom. Now, the main tag, the word there is main. What it means is that it is the main section. There is no other part of the website that is as big and as populated as this part. So that is when you use the main. So you can use the main to wrap everything that is in the body if you want. The word there is main. Now, it's not compulsory that you must use them. It's not compulsory. You can stick to only div. You can stick to only this section. You can stick to only these two and a div. Now, it's your choice. Is there any difference? That's the difference I'm making now. Now, this one is like an older version, or let me say the section is like a newer version of a div. Before now, we didn't know what section was. We didn't know what main was, header and footer. We don't know what these things, these ones, we don't know what they were. All developers were using the div tag. But the HTML we are writing is HTML5. The HTML5, let me show that. So HTML5, meaning the version 5 of HTML. So these tags came with the version 5 of HTML. Now, instead of using a div, they said you can use a section to replace a div. A div is used for grouping, which is what I did here, but you can choose to replace this div with a section. It will do the same thing. There is no difference. They will all do the same thing. The only difference there is that the person who is reading the codes, being your fellow developers, will then know that you are new, you know all these new things. You understand? But that's a website that don't use it, it's fine. The header is only used at the head. That is why it's called the header. So at the head means anything that is going to be at the top of the body here, within the top. That's why you use the header. The footer is used as the last thing. So once you see the footer, it is the last thing in the body. There is not going to be any other tag after you see the footer here. So the header is going to be the first in your body. And then anywhere in between, you can either use a div tag, you can either use a section tag, you can use a main tag. So, but for the sake of this class, I'm going to remove the main, I'm going to remove the div, and I will use the section tag. So those three tags, all of them, you can choose anyone. So I will just do this and change it to section. So I have a section. Now, every website has different sections. So you can choose to create multiple sections. That is what grouping is. on a website. So you can choose to group them into different sections. So any question on that? What's the question? What of article? Yeah, there is article, there is aside, there are so many of them. Like I said, there are so many tags. I haven't used all of them myself. I haven't used all of them. But if you want, you can try them out. If you don't want, you can actually forget them. It doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing. Some persons use all of them, some persons forget them. So anyone you want, go ahead. So, but I've just shown you the three important ones. The header be at the head, the section. Now you can create multiple sections, like duplicate section. So there are going to be the header, section 1, section 2, section 3, and then finally the footer. So you can have that if you want. So, but for now, I have only the header, one section, and the footer. So if I save this now and refresh the browser, of course, the live server is refreshing it. You see, there's no difference. Nothing changed. It's the same thing. So, but the idea of grouping is so that when you want to apply CSS, it will work out fine. If you don't group them well, when you apply in CSS, it will not appear well. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to see it. The same thing when you are building a house, you make sure that the structure is standing very well. Now, if the structure is not standing well, by the time you put the roof, everything might fall. By the time you decide to mount a gate or maybe connect electricity, you might see that the electrician might even fall. So that is why the structure is very, very important. So the nav, the main footer, do they have attributes? The nav is used for navigation. We may look into it. The main doesn't have any attribute. The footer also doesn't have any attribute. They are all used for grouping of tags. So they're not doing anything. They're just grouping tags. They don't display anything. So if you want to know, like if I'm working on so many sections, for example, let's say I duplicate this into different sections. Now I have multiple sections. I can close this section. 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 So I know that if I'm working on one section, it is one section. If I'm working on another section, it's another section. So what I'm doing in this section will not affect what I'm doing here. What I'm doing here will not affect what I'm doing here. That is the only reason, to structure them very well. Now, another reason is to know the idea between the parent and the child relationship. The parent and the child relationship. Now let's talk about that. What does that mean? Parent and a child. For example, I have this H1 here. This is a child. The H1 here is a child. Why? Because there is nothing inside, no other tag that is inside this H1. The same thing with the P tag is a child here. There is no other tag inside it. The same thing with the image. There is no other tag inside it. But this section is a parent. Why? Because you have the H1 inside it. You have the P tag inside it. And you have the image tag inside it. So therefore, the section is a parent. The body here is a parent. Why? You have the header inside it. You have the section inside it. And you have the footer inside it. So therefore, the body tag is a parent. So there is something called a child, a parent, and a grandparent. Of course, we understand that in family tree. So if I say what is tag is the direct parent of the H1, by default, okay, you should know that that is what? This section. Because directly this H1 is inside this section. But it doesn't mean that this H1 is not inside the body. It is still inside the body. But the direct parent of this H1 is this section, and the grandparent of this H1 is the body. Now, I don't know if that makes sense. Does it make sense? Or should I go over it again? Does it make sense? Or should I repeat that again? The idea of parent, child, and grandparent. Should I repeat that or it makes sense? All right. Let me just take it one more time. This H1 is a child. Why? Because there is no tag inside it. There is no tag inside the H1. The P tag is a child. Why? There is no tag inside the P tag. The IMG tag, the image tag, is also a child because there is no tag inside the image tag. Now, the section is a parent, not a child. Why? Because there is the H1 inside it, there is the P tag inside it, and there is the image tag inside it. So therefore, the section is or can be referred to as a parent. So if it's a parent, now this header is not a parent yet, but yes, exactly. Now you're getting it, the uncles and the aunties. So this one are the children of this section. Now, but because the section and the header and the footer are parent to this one, so it means that the footer is an uncle to these ones. Exactly. It makes sense now. Yeah, because the header and the section and the footer are children to the body tag. So that means the header and the footer are uncles and aunties to the H1. But the body is a grandparent to the H1, the P tag, and the image. Now, if you understand the idea of parenting, that means you will understand what structure means in HTML. So you can understand how to structure your project, because if you can structure your project, the CSS becomes very easy. You need to understand which one is a child, which one is a parent, which one is a grandparent, which one is uncle, and which one is auntie, just like that. Yeah, so the three of them are referred to as siblings, whereas these three are also referred to as siblings because they have the same parent. So when they have the same parent, you refer to them as siblings. So ladies and gentlemen, let's write some codes. So I have a section here. This is the only section tag. And what I can do is I'll come here and I'll call the section tag. Now, this is the only section. Here, this is the only section. So I am calling it by the name section. So if I come here, let me confirm that this tag is, please don't ask me to repeat it again. How do you close the section? Now, if you hover over these numbers, you will see this angle brackets. If you click on them, it will close that tag. So if you hover over it, it will close any parent. And also, that's how you know which one is a parent. A parent will always have this angle bracket. So the body is a parent, it has it. The section is a parent, it also has it. Like that. So that's how you know a parent. Now the head is also a parent because it has children inside it. Like that. So you can also close the head. The HTML is also a parent because it has, but that is the root. We're going to get to that, the root. So I have this section tag, confirm that I've linked my CSS. Yes, I have linked it. So I can come over here, call this section. The first thing I want to add is a border. So I'll say border width. The border width should be 2 pixels. The next thing will be the border style. The border style should be solid. The next thing I want to add is the border color. The border color should be green. And then I'll save this. I'm adding this to the parent. Yes, we are going to get to this part. We will. Definitely we will. Maybe not today, but if at all, we can try today. So I have this section and I've added styles to it. And it looks as if my style is not applying. Why is that the case? Let me confirm that this is now restarting. So it's gone. So because it's gone, I will open live server again. I will right click, open with live server. It will open a different browser. So this is what I have. I think I should use this browser then, since it prefers this browser. I'll keep it by the side. It's not, that's why I don't want this browser, because this browser doesn't go smaller than this. It doesn't, but it's fine. So what I simply did was call this section. I can remove this H1 for now and save this. I call this section. I added a border. Border is this green thing you are seeing around it. That's border. So to add a border requires 3 properties. The width. The width means the thickness of this thing. The style means the style of this thing. And the color means the color of this thing. Now there are so many styles. I can say dashed. If I say dashed and save it, you see the style of the border has changed. So there are so many of them. I can say double. If I save double, it's going to be like this, not double. I want something else, which is going to be dotted. Yeah, I can use dotted. It's going to be dotted. And to see that better, I think I should increase the, yeah. So this is the style. Now, to apply a border, you need the width, the style, and the color. 3 of them. And there are so many colors. You can apply purple and see the color. There are so many colors in CSS. And you can actually hover over this color thing and to bring out this color palette. And you can select any color you want. You move it to green like this. You move it back around. You pick any color and it will choose a particular color for you. It will be a different color. You hover over it again to bring out the color palette. You see down to pink and then move your circle down to this side. You pick a color and you save it, the color changes. So there are so many colors in CSS. The same way you can pick color and you can apply colors to anything. But I'm going to return this to solid and save that. So I have this applied like this. Yes, pink. I'll leave it at pink. But there is one thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about margin and padding. It's very, very important. Margin and padding. Margin and padding is very, very important. If you look at this thing, you will see that this text, they are touching the borders. The text are touching the borders, and I don't want that. So I can add a space between this text and the border. So either I add that space by referencing the border or by referencing the text. What does it mean? I can say, text, please give me a space at your right hand side. Or border, please give me space at your, no, okay, the border is on the right, while for the text it will be on the left. So I can say, text, give me a space on your left hand, or border, give me a space on your right hand. So any spacing you add on the inside is called padding. For example, if I call this border and I say I want to add spacing to the inside of this border, whether on the right or on the left or at the top or at the bottom, that spacing is called padding. So padding and margin, they are both spaces, but they for different parts. So padding, I am adding a space on the inside, while margin, I am adding a space on the outside. So if I call this section, now this border is the section, the group one. So this is the section, right? That is where you have this border, not the H1, not the paragraph tag. So if I call on the border and say, give me margin top, margin at the top, and say 40 pixels, what does it mean? It means move away from the top by 40 pixels. So if I save this, it's now going to move away from the top by 40 pixels. Now, if I increase it to 140, I'm simply saying move away from the top by 140 pixels. So if I save this, you see it's moving away from the top. I can also, but that spacing is being added where? On the outside. That's for margin. Margin adds spacing on the outside, either at the top or at the left or at the bottom or at the right hand side. So, but the spacing is on the outside of that element. That's for margin. But if I go with padding and say padding top should be 140 pixels. So padding is spacing on the inside. So if I save it, and now you see, no, I didn't save what I wanted. So this is what I wanted to save. Now you see that I've added spacing, the same amount of space, but for the margin, it happened outside. And for the padding, it happened inside. So if I comment this out, you see that the one outside is gone. But if I put it back and remove the margin, you see that the one outside is gone, but the one inside remains. So that is the difference between margin and padding. So when you are building a website, maybe not you may not be building it because you're a front-end developer, but you need to understand what margin and padding is. So with that said, I'm going to leave that and then move ahead to do what I want to do. What do I want to do? I want to add a space here. I want to add a space all around it so that nothing will be touching the border. To add a space all around, I say padding all around. So if I just mention padding without specifying whether it should be the top or the bottom, it will add the same size of spacing all around it. So padding all around 20 pixels. So I'll save that and I'll keep that like that. The next thing I want to do is to call the H1. For the H1, I want to give it a color of blue and then hit enter and save. My H1 has a color of blue. And I can actually add the button. So I'll come down here and add the button. This is a button tag and it should say read more and have ... and save that. So here I have a button. Now you cannot see it. No, you can actually see it. I have a button. So I can apply styles to this button. How do I want to apply the styles? I'll come here, call the button, and then give it a style. The first thing I want to do is put a background color. The background color should be blue and save it. And then the color of the text inside it should be white and save it. And then you should have spacing on the inside. Or should I go with the height and the width? Let's go with the height. The height should be 20 pixels. Let me see how big that is. It's too small. So I'll increase it to 40 pixels. That's 30 pixels. 30 is fine. Or let's go with 35 pixels. 35 is okay. I can increase the width and say the width should be around 300 pixels. 300 is small. And I can increase it to 500 pixels. 500 is okay. So that's my button, my welcome to CSS, my paragraph, and I can actually increase this paragraph. So I can just come down here and use lorem 50 to increase the paragraph and save it. So I have a bigger paragraph now. So ladies and gentlemen, do you understand this thing I have done? Or do you have a question? Please ask your question, or if you don't understand it, then I can go over it again. But I want to believe you understand it. It's very simple, straight to the point. Now you get to do your own. You do your own as a way of assignment. You also do your own. But just focus on the one I am teaching you. Forget about the one I haven't taught you. It's looking like Greek. It's fine. Don't worry about it. We're going to talk about it again. So let's try this one more time. I'll remove everything here. Remove everything, including the header and the body. Everything is done. I'll come to my CSS, hover over everything, and they are gone. Now the border is what is actually grouping the box. So let's come back again and start from the beginning. So here I will create a parent, which is going to be this section. Inside this section, I'll add H1 and I'll say welcome to Nigeria and save that. That's my H1. I'll come here, put a paragraph, and then my paragraph will be Lorem 30 and save that. Then I'll come here and add a button. My button will say read more and then save it. So if you look at it now, there is no border. Borders are only applied to the parent. Borders are only applied to the parent. Now, in this case, if I ask you, which one is the parent of the H1? Which one is the direct parent of the H1? Which of these tags is the direct parent of the H1? The section, the direct parent. So borders are only applied to the parents, not the child. So if we want to apply border, we'll be applying border to either the section or the body, because these are the only parents here. Every other one is a child. So, but I want to apply it on the section. I will copy this section, come over to CSS, and then start applying border. Now, there is a shorthand for applying border. Let's go with that. Border. So once I call border, now hover over the border. It says shorthand property for setting border. The first one is the width, the second one is the style, and the third one is the color. So these are the three things you need to set border. Shorthand property for setting border. The width, the style, and then the color. So if I call border, I can specify 5 pixels, which is the width, solid, which is the style, and green, which is the color. So these are the 3 properties to set border. That's the first one. Now the second thing now is, if you look at the inside of this border, both the button and the text are touching the border. But I don't want that. So I will need to add spacing. Yeah, so I will need to add spacing so that these texts are not touching the border. How do I do that? Now, we talked about margin and padding. Margin is space on the outside. Padding is space on the inside. Now, even if you don't understand it now, it's fine. You're going to get it later. So margin outside, padding inside. Where do we want to add space? Inside of the border. So if it's on the inside, then we need padding. So I'll call padding all around, both at the top, at the bottom, at the left, and the center. I want to add 20 pixel spacing. So if I say that, I've added spacing all around it by 20 pixels. That's done. Everything for the border, which is the parents, the section, is done. I can move to the child. The first child here is the H1. That's the first child. So I can pick the first child, which is H1, and come here, I call H1. What do I want to do? I want to just change the color. I can change it to blue if I want and save it. Now it changes to blue. You can increase the size if you want. So the font size can be 30 pixels and save it. It will increase the size, or you maybe increase it to 50 pixels, something very visible. 50 pixels. The next chart is the paragraph. So I can pick the paragraph, come here, pick the paragraph, and then maybe change the color of the paragraph. The color, I want it to be yellow or something. That yellow is not good, so I can change it to coral. Now, there are words colors, like I know the words, the colors by their name. Also, I can pick the colors if I want. So I hover over this color. I can switch the color from here to here, whatever I want, and then pick anyone, and the color will change like that. So that's how you can pick color, or if you know the name of the color, you can just apply it directly. For example, I can change this to pink and save. Now, if you notice my CSS, they all end with this semicolon. The CSS all end with semicolon. Now, if you notice that that CSS style is not applying, check if it is ending with semicolon. Because a single thing or a small thing as semicolon can actually make your website not to work. So just this small semicolon will make that style not to work. So if it's not working, check that there is a semicolon at the end. So this is for the children. I'll save that. And let me go back to where I was. I'll change this to blue, save it. Now this is coral. Now the next thing is the button. I added the button here as a child of the section. So I can copy the button and come here and apply styles to the button. So what style do I want? The first thing is the background color. The background color, I can select any of these colors if I want. So I'm going to pick indigo and save it. Indigo, and then I'll change the color to white and save it. And the height of the button is too small. I want to increase the height to maybe 40 pixels. The height has increased. The width, I want to increase the width to maybe 500 pixels. So that's fine. Now forget about how it's looking and don't try to memorize anything. Don't try to memorize anything. You're going to use it over and over again. Now if you don't understand anyone, it's fine. There's this story I like telling people about Henry Ford and a reporter. Now it's not my story, but I like using that scenario. So a particular journalist published that Henry Ford is a dullard that doesn't know anything. So Henry Ford had to sue this journalist and then ask the journalist to come to court and prove why then the reporter said he can prove that. So they put Henry Ford on the stand and he was asking Henry Ford, when America fought the war in so and so year, how many soldiers did they go with? When America fought the war and the war ended, how many soldiers came back? So all of the questions, Henry Ford was saying, I don't know. So at some point, he paused the journalist and said, all of these questions you are asking, I can press a button and 3 or 4 journalists that are better than you will line up here and start answering these questions for me. So why do I need to memorize this event that has happened? I can press this button and people who are going to answer this question will line up here and they'll answer the question. My brain is meant for innovations. I'm supposed to think of new things. I'm supposed to come up with new ideas, not thinking about old things. I can always press a button and somebody will come and answer old questions. Now, you have the same privilege. You can press a button and Google will answer the question for you. A good thing, we have so many search engines right now. Any search engine of your choice, just pick it. Type in what you want to do, is going to bring out the answer for you. You don't have to memorize anything. You are supposed to be innovative. You are supposed to think of new things. As a matter of fact, that's what being a backend developer is. The project you will build are not things that people have seen. They are not things that people already know. No, but you learn the basics, know the basics, and using the basics to apply on how to innovate bigger solutions. So don't memorize anything. Anything you don't understand, type it on Google. Google is going to get it for you. Ask questions, they will respond to you, and so on and so forth. But do not memorize anything. All right, so that being said, do you have any question on this? Is a simple design. You can try it out and try replicating this design on your own, but if you can't, it's fine. Tomorrow is another class. We're also going to repeat the same things again. So, but outside that, can we move forward? If we can move forward, please drop a thumbs up. If you have a question, ask a question. How do you copy? What do you mean by copy? Do you mean like highlighting, copy with Control C and then Control V to paste? Because that is what copy is. And the same way you copy anywhere is the same way you copy at the browser. Control C for copy, Control V for pasting. All right. So we have a little knowledge about CSS and a little knowledge about HTML. So to copy from HTML, I double click, like on the tag, I double click, making sure that this is what I'm selecting, or I put the cursor, click down, drag it, highlight all. I'm sure you know this one. So highlight it, Control C will still copy it, and you come here, then Control V will still paste it. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. All right, so that being said, let's move over to the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room. What is it? Please, I suggest you share your code after the class. That's where I'm coming to. I cannot share my codes with you via Telegram or via WhatsApp or via Facebook and anyone know, or via email. I have to do it the proper way so that when you are working as a developer too, you know how to share codes with developers. That is why we need to, at this point, pause with the CSS and move over to GitHub. The GitHub is very, very important to any developer, because as a developer, people will be asking you to share codes, not just to share codes. Now, the goal of this training is so that at the end of the training, you can land a job. If you want to pass any job interview, the first thing that will qualify you is that you have a GitHub account. There are people who will ask you to send resume. Send your resume, send your portfolio, send your LinkedIn profile. They will not ask you to send GitHub repo. Now, some persons do, don't get me wrong. Some persons do, but not everybody. Why? Why is the case? Now, I've been an interviewer. I've interviewed for so many organizations. They've called me, said, David, we have an interview with so-and-so developer. Please, can you come and help us interview the developer? Yeah. A lot of the persons who are going to interview you, their job, their role is called HR. That is what they are. HR. What is HR? Human relations. So they do not know anything about being a back-end developer. They don't know what to ask for. They just want to see what you wrote there, what you can do. But how do you prove to them beyond reasonable doubt that I know what I am doing? You need to send them a profile on GitHub. Now, sometimes I don't send resume. As a matter of fact, I may not even send you portfolio because my portfolio is outdated. Now, I'm not saying your portfolio should be outdated, no. But once I send you my GitHub repo, this is my GitHub. Once I send you my GitHub, you don't need me to prove to you that I have an experience. So, because the GitHub alone proves that you have experience. Now, if you are being asked to send a GitHub account, it means the person who is interviewing you is a developer. He knows what it means to be a developer. But if you are not asked to send your GitHub account, it means the person who is interviewing you is a HR. You don't know what it means to be a backend developer. So, but either ways, you need to send them your GitHub account. Even if you are not sending any other thing, make sure you send GitHub account. That is the only way you prove that you have experience. Now, if you look at this GitHub here it says repositories. The number here is 164. Now, it's not plenty. For you say 164 is too small. Of course, 164 is too small, but it's too large. For some developers, they know what it means. Now, why do I say it's large? If you come here, this is my activity on GitHub. Activity means how many times I've push codes to the to GitHub for a while. Now, if you look at it, I didn't do much last year. I did some things. If you look at it, these green dots are not plenty. I did some things, a few things. I think last year was on a break. I did a few things, but from October, actually from September last year, I started doing massive pushing and cloning on GitHub. I was doing a lot on GitHub. So if you look at it here, October, November, I did a lot. December, I did massively. Why? There were projects that were being launched. So December, we wanted to launch projects and there was heavy work. So, and look, a developer that sees this will say, yeah, this person has experience. You've passed in step 1. The next step is to ask you, please, can you write a code? That's the next thing. The moment somebody who knows what they're doing sees a GitHub account, you've passed the question, they just ask you a simple question. I've been on an interview where the person who is interviewing, we're asking questions, does not know the questions we're asking them. But if you look at the GitHub repo, they've done something. You cannot let them go. Let me just give you this, is it called a secret? Job interviewers don't want you to fail. HR, yes, the competency test. HR, they don't want you to fail, especially if you are a back-end developer. I've been on a job interview. I didn't know I've even applied. I've applied for, I think it was the previous year. They hit me up the next year and said there's an opening. Please, you sent a resume once so and so year. Please, we want to interview you and so on. I said, okay, I'll be available on Sunday night. They called me again. Please try and be available on Monday for the interview. Why? They want you to be available because there's not so many persons that know these things. They don't want you to fail. Secondly, some HRs, their job is to connect you, the developer, to the job. So they are looking for jobs. They get you, they interview you, they connect you to the job, and they get paid for it. So they don't want you to fail as a backend developer. They don't want you to fail. They want you to know what you are doing and do it well, because that way they will also get paid. Now, I know a lot of interview. I've been in a case where a friend from Canada was like, he got the job and he sent me the tax. Please do the tax, and then I send you some money and just like that. So they don't want you to fail. They get paid if you get paid. like that. So you need to put your mind to it. Do not be afraid of the job and searching. Yeah, there could be. I'm not saying that it's very fast. You get a job very fast and easy. No, but if you learn it well, a tendency of landing a job is very high. So everybody will need to head over to github.com and create an account. And it doesn't matter how, but head over to github.com and create an account. When you create an account, you're not going to see all these things. You will not see all these things. You may possibly see everything empty like this, like that. That's what you will see. So head over there, set up profile, set up account, and all of that. Why? With GitHub, we can do so many things. One of it being remote work. A lot of persons want to work remotely. So if you're going to be working remotely, how would you collaborate with other developers? How do they merge their codes to your own codes? How do they see what you are working on and review your codes? How would they see and add their own codes to your own codes? It is all done on GitHub. A lot of developers I've worked with, I haven't seen them. I've worked with some people for 5 years. I haven't seen them like once. And the funny part is we have no intention of meeting each other also like that. But we work on GitHub. Yeah, I'm going to show you how to publish on GitHub. Out of electric energy. Sorry, you lost me here. Okay, so let's just proceed. When you create an account, apart from what do I call it? Sharing codes, there is something called version control. If I come to LinkedIn and I search for a job on LinkedIn, a lot of jobs, the requirement there, you will see Git and GitHub. Like it's one of their requirements. Git and GitHub. Why? Because of version control. Node.js developer remote. Let me just search. And which one should I think there's a way to filter today's own post. Let's go by post. Okay. I cannot find a job. I think I didn't. There are so many jobs being posted every day, but let's use the keyword hiring because that's where you, yeah, if you use the keyword hiring, you'll find a job. If anyone is interested in skills, Node.js ID, microservice, exploring native, sort by date posted the past 24 hours, make it developer, not developer. I add a Node.js developer. It's fine. I can't find, yeah, hiring a full stack. But this is full stack. But inside full stack, there's also Node. I just wanted to show you that they will insist on Git and GitHub. They always insist on Git and GitHub. So why do they insist on Git and GitHub? Because of version control. Version control means, I don't know if you remember very well, the first time Facebook came out, the version of Facebook we are using then is not the same version that we have now. But if Facebook wants to move us back to the previous version, they can do that. They can. And a lot of us use mobile apps. After a while, they ask you to update your app. After a while, they ask you to update your app. After a while, they ask you to update your app. They can also move you back to the previous version. So that is what version control is with GitHub. So with GitHub, you can store codes for different versions. You can store codes for different versions. So version 1 has its own codes and is running. People are using it. When you want to make updates, you make updates, you push another code again for version 2. When you make updates on that one, you push another codes again, it becomes version 3. So you keep pushing different versions of your codes. That becomes the different version of your software. So that is version control. Whenever you hear someone says Git and GitHub is required, they are talking about version control. So that if you build something today, you can still be working on it. While the other version is still running, you are still working on it, and then deploy a current version. Then people move on to the new version. Then it's not as if you would delete the later version, you still keep it. GitHub, you keep everything like that. So that being said, how do you push to GitHub? So I've explained a few reasons why you need a GitHub account: for version control, for interview, for collaboration, for sharing code. There are so many of them. How do you move? The first thing you want to do is click on new. This is new. You click on new, it will bring you here. Or you click on this plus sign and say new repository. The two of them do the same thing. Repository means folder. Now, on your local laptop, you are creating a folder. But on GitHub, you are creating a repository. They are the same thing. Repository is also a folder. I think you also created a folder on Google Drive. So it's still the same thing. Folder, but GitHub calls it repository. So either you click here to create a new repository, or you click here to create a new repository. And this is after you have created an account. Creating an account is easy and it's free, absolutely free. You just put your email, put your whatever, I think is email, name, email, and click next. They ask you a few questions: student, select, trying, testing, whatever, just click and send. That's it. The information you put at the beginning will not determine how you will use GitHub. No. Whether you put it as a student, whether you put it as a full stack developer, yes, you can do this with your phone. You cannot push your codes. I think you can push your codes with your phone, but you can actually create an account with your phone. You can view it, do everything with phone. But I don't think you'll be writing codes with your phone like that. So I'll click here, a new repository. Creating a new folder or a new repository, there are a few required things here. The first one is the name. If you are working on a school project, the name of a repository becomes the name of that school. If you are working on an assignment, the name of that assignment becomes the name of the repository. Assignment for week 1, assignment for week 2, project CareerEx web, CareerEx server, different names. So you give the repository a name. Okay. All right, we're going to see that. Now, there are no two projects can have the same name. No. Every project will have a different and a unique name. If they are going to have the same name, you can add dash or double dash or triple dash or dash. Keep adding dash, but no project can have the same name. So here I am going to call this CSS intro. So I'm calling the name of this project CSS intro. Description, you can add a description about the project. It's a project that teaches you the basics of CSS and blah, 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 blah. It's fine. But if you don't want to, you can also skip that one. The second thing is here. This is the most important part. The GitHub is like your bank account. The GitHub is like your bank account. What do I mean? A lot of persons will pay you to write codes. If they pay you to write codes, they will make you sign an agreement. That agreement is called non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. It means that whatever code you write, nobody is supposed to see that code. So as a developer or as a backend developer, if you're going to work for a company or work for as a freelancer on any project, you'll be signing NDA. Now, if they don't give you an NDA to sign, they know that it is automatic. So this is what I tell students. Public means anybody can see the codes. So long as the code is on GitHub, anybody can see it. So long as the code is on GitHub. So if you keep it at public, anybody can see the codes. But if you keep it on private, nobody can see that code unless you invite that person with their email. So nobody can see that code unless you invite them. So for the sake of your interviews, job search, job hunting, and everything, all your repositories that you create, keep them as public. My internet. Yeah. Am I connected yet? All right. Please, can you hear me now? If you can hear me, please drop a thumbs up. Please drop a thumbs up if you can hear me. All right. All right, let's proceed. So I know I'm taking my time to explain this, but because we may not have time to explain this part again. So for the sake of your job hunting and your assignment and everything, keep all your projects as public. Keep them as public. Keep them as public. But if they are paying you for it, keep it private. If they are paying you to write that code, please keep it public. Private rather. Why you keep it public is because when you share your GitHub repo with maybe job interviewers and HR, you want them to look at your Git repos and see what you've worked on before. That proves that you have an experience. You have an experience. So, but don't worry, we've not talked about Git. We're just talking about creating a folder. We've not talked about anything. We're just talking about creating the folder. So when you have that, you can then, but if they're paying you for it, make sure it is private. Now, they can forget the front-end developer, leave the front-end developer. If anything goes wrong, they may leave the front-end developer. He doesn't know much. But you see the back-end developer, they will arrest you and they will sue you to court if the code base leaks out. Because the moment people see your code, they understand how to hack your system. And if they hack your system, money is gone. Things will be spoiled. Records will be destroyed. Things will be exposed. People's data, password will be exposed like that. So once they are paying you for it, whether you signed an NDA or whether you did not sign an NDA, please keep it private. And that is all you need. So you need just two things compulsory: the name and the visibility. Every other thing you can forget about it. So you need just two things to create a repository: the name and the visibility. And I understand, I'm sure by now you know what the visibility means. So I'll click this and click create. But before I click create, do you now know how to create a repository? If you know how to create a repository, please drop a thumbs up so we proceed. If you don't know how to create a repository, then drop a thumbs down. All right. I'm not talking about people who use GitHub to submit their assignment. I'm talking about new persons that don't know, who did not submit the assignment with GitHub, because your this week assignment must be submitted with GitHub. All right, I'll take it one more time for the sake of these two persons, but please pay attention. Now, when you create your GitHub account, once you create a GitHub account, the next thing you want to do is create a repository. A repository means a folder. You create a folder like this. So you can either click on this place where it says new, it will bring you here, or you click this plus sign and say click new repository. That is what you want. So if you click on it, it will bring you here. Once it brings you here, you want to enter the name. The name I want to enter is CSS introduction. CSS introduction. And after that, the next thing you need to do, you can choose to forget the description. You are not seeing my screen. Who else is not seeing my screen? Is there another person that does not see my screen? Any other person? I think. Yeah, my screen is showing and I'm sure my internet is okay. All right. All right. So you need the name and then the visibility. These are the two compulsory things. Every other thing, you can skip it. You need the name and the visibility. The visibility here means keep it public. Always keep it public. Always keep it public. Unless they are paying you for it, keep it private. Once they are paying you for it, keep it private. And I'm also going to show you some of my repositories that are public and some that are private. So if I click private, the name and public, and then you can click create. That is going to create your repository for you. So when you click and you see that this is the name of the folder or the repository I created, this is here. It will ask you if you know git command. These are the git commands. In the middle of our class, we're going to do these git commands. But for today, we're not going to do git commands. There is something here called upload an existing file. If you can see this upload an existing file, please drop a thumbs up. Upload an existing file. If you can see this upload an existing file, please drop a thumbs up. Yes. So what does upload an existing file means? It's very simple. Click here. It will open this interface. You go over to your project directory, copy everything, drag it, and drop here. That's it. So once you click on upload an existing file, you come over to your project, copy everything inside that folder. Now, you know that your project folder is the same thing as your Git repository. Two of them are folder. So if you drag the folder and put it inside another folder, so it will now be a folder inside another folder. So you don't want to do that. But the repository is a folder, your project directory is a folder. You want to copy what is inside your project directory and put it on your GitHub repository like that. So not the folder, but you can also drag the folder and drop it there. It's fine. But the best way is to copy what is inside the folder and drop it on GitHub repository. So I will highlight everything, I will drag, and I will drop here. So dragging and dropping here, it will start uploading everything, to upload everything. At the moment you can see the names of the files, you click on commit changes. Commit changes means save. So I'll click on it, and then it will process the files. And now my files are on GitHub. Even on GitHub, I can click on styles, then click on about.css, and I will see the CSS I have written. I can view the codes here. So you can read the code on GitHub if you want. And also, sorry, not here. And also you can go to the project, the repository, copy the link. Either you copy the link here at the top, or you click on code and copy the link here. Either ways, copy the link here, or you copy the link here. Either ways. Click here, copy the link here, or you copy the link here. Now, if you want, you can read the code here on GitHub. Yes, you can commit using commands, but for now, we're not going to be doing the commands. Let's get used to uploading, dragging and dropping on GitHub first. Then later, we're going to be using GitHub commands so that we will know why we're using anything we're using. There's no need to rush. So if I want to download this code base, if I click on code, you will see download as zip. So this is how to download the code. You click download as zip. Where do you get it? If I come to this page, but first I will need to share this URL with you. If I share the URL with you, then you can come directly on the page. So I've shared the URL. You can go on the page and download the code either as a zip file. So if I click on download as zip file, it will start downloading the code. Now you see it has started downloading the code. And if I click on save and then open the folder, you see now I have my folder here, but as a zip file. So I want to believe we all know what the zip file is. You will need to unzip it. If I double click, I have unzipped it. If I open it up, I see my styles, I see my pages, index, and images. That's one way to download the code. Another way to download the code is by cloning. You clone the repository with GitHub commands. So I'll copy the link here, or you copy the link here, and you go to your folder. So I will open this folder. I want to add it inside this project, this folder called resources. So I open GitHub command, and then in the GitHub command, I will type git clone and then paste this URL. So git clone, paste this URL, and then hit enter is going to clone the project into this folder. So those are the two ways to download this project. You can also read the code here on GitHub. So ladies and gentlemen, with that, I think I've come to the end of today's class. But if you have any question, please ask your question. If you have any concern, anything you want me to know, please ask. Sorry, we might treat that, is a recent, we might treat that again, but try it out yourself, OG. We're also going to have a recorded video, so you can always watch the pre-recorded video because GitHub is important. So you watch the video, you can skip the video to the ending part because that is where we talked about. Yes, you can read the code on GitHub. You can read the code on GitHub. As you come to this page directly, you have all the files here. You can click on any of the files, click on it, and you read it. And you can copy the code directly here. You can copy the code directly here if you want. You can also download it if you want. So you can read it here, you can download it here, you can copy it here, they're your choice. And you can open it here on VS Code, but that's on an advanced level. So if I come here to .com and change it to dev, so if I change the .com to .dev and hit enter, it is going to automatically open this on VS Code without cloning, without downloading. But the VS Code is an online VS Code. So it's trying to open it up on VS Code. So changing the .com to .dev will automatically open it up on VS Code. Yeah, so this is VS Code. It has opened automatically. And this is my browser. You see. So it's setting it up. So you can do this, and then here you can visualize the code very well and copy it very well without having to download it again. So those are the different ways to get the code and share the codes too. Yes, you can commit directly from VS Code, but that is when you are pushing with Git commands. When you're pushing with Git commands. Yeah, so yeah, / the same folder, / outside of the current folder. If you submitted your assignment, it's fine. You should know that, sorry, the part where you get to see what you submitted has not been implemented now, but you're going to see it later. The Git clone, So let me change this back to .com. The Git clone, you need to get the link. Of course, I've shared the link here with you already. So if I go to, if I go to the resources where I pasted the link, I can copy this link here. So if you copy this link here, you go over to any folder of your choice. So I can come to this folder now. I have Git bash. What you will do is you right click, and on your Windows, you will see Git bash. Now, if you don't see Git bash, you use any terminal. If you don't have any terminal, you go over to VS Code. VS Code has an integrated terminal here. So there's a terminal here. You can use this terminal too if you want. So Git clone works with terminal. So I'm going to open this folder with my terminal, and inside my terminal here, I'm going to paste git clone and then paste the URL. That is it. So git clone, paste the URL and hit enter. It will clone the project for you, but you need to have internet for that. Yeah, that's for the git clone. Does the code save to GitHub when you use .dev? Now, if you are the person that owns that repo, or you are a contributor to that repo, of course it will save. But if you're not, it's not going to save. All right, ladies and gentlemen, any question before we call it a day? Any question before we call it a day? So how about the attendance? I'm sure you but go and mark your attendance. The attendance is open. Now, the attendance is always open from when the class starts. It will be open till the end of the class, and I'll close it. So if you've not marked your attendance, please head over to CareerEx platform and mark your attendance. There should be an indication that the assignment is, there's going to be an indication. You're going to see your score also soon. That part has not been implemented. All right, I hope so tomorrow. Tomorrow's is Salah, and the classes are by 7 p.m. Well, if it's going to affect the class, you just let me know. We can always move the class. But I don't know. Tomorrow we can. If you cannot meet up the class, if we have a Muslim brothers who can't meet up the class, as many as you are, just send me messages. We can look at the numbers. If the numbers are enough, we can skip the class for tomorrow. But nevertheless, just let me know whatever it is. You said that we share syllabus today. For now, I don't have the syllabus For now, I don't, but I will share a syllable with you, but that shouldn't be your problem. We're going to, of course, I'm a hands-on developer, so I'm going to teach you what is needed hands-on. So, but I'm going to share the syllabus. I don't have it in hand right now. I'm writing it out. I was meant to write it out somewhere and share a screenshot. I have it typed, but the typed one is too plenty. It's a full stack syllable. It's not just backend, so I can't share a full stack. I want to bring out the backend. So, do you know from your experience that I will meet within 3 months? Yeah, of course. You can actually 3 months is for backend. 3 months is enough for backend alone. If you pay attention, 3 months is enough. In 3 months, you should be able to just pick up your backend. If you do my assignment, do the project, you pick up the project. All right, guys. So in the absence of any questions and you are okay to end the class here, please drop a thumbs up. Yeah, for those who submitted as comment, now I don't know what I can do for you, but just send me your assignment and I'm going to review your assignment. Now, if I can add it automatically, I don't know if I can do that automatically, but what I can do is just send me your assignment. It's where, but just send me the assignment first. I'll just review it, but it may not be on the platform again because just like that. All right, guys. In the absence of any question, au revoir. See you tomorrow. Bye.